What's up, everyone? Just doing a quick live stream. It's been a while since I've done one, and I wanted to talk to you today about the difference between open source and closed source technologies. I want to talk to you about some uh, important information everybody needs to understand about AI. If you're using AI at all, I'm going to be sharing some very critical information tonight that you'll want to kind of just take important note about. So, it's talking about AI systems and how they operate. And, you know, I'll just show you a couple of things I'm working on myself that will kind of help enlighten if you're interested in learning some of these technologies and understand how these things operate and how and when it's okay to trust an AI. So I was giving the example in a conversation about this very topic. The idea was like, if you, the reason why you want to have open source, why it's so critical, is because on an open source um, system, what you're looking right now on my screen, this is actually an operating system called Ubuntu. And Ubuntu is another version of Windows. There's Windows. There's iOS, Mac. There's iOS for like Macs, and then you have um, obviously Android operating systems, and then you have Ubuntu. Ubuntu is an open source, is built on an open source operating system, Linux. Now, why that? Because if you have the the more you can control a system, the more trust you can have in that system. What I mean by this, imagine you're in a religious some type of religious country. Imagine you're in a religious country that you don't really agree with. Okay, let's say you happen to live. Give an example like North Korea. Let's say you're in North Korea, and North Korean government wants to control what data you get to see. Imagine if a North Korean citizen searches some random question like, is Kim Jong Un God? Okay. Now, if you were obviously the answer would not be favorable. But if search within the North Korean continent and Kim Jong Un or whoever is in control of that ecosystem, then they could program an AI to lie to its citizens. Okay. So, in other words, you can give AIs what they call biases and weights. You can tell the AI what information is important. You can tell an AI what to think. Essentially, you can tell an AI how to reason. So if your reasoning is bad, you can teach an AI to have bad reasoning as well. Okay, why that's important is because governments and companies who are building the AI systems, you have to understand they are building these systems with their own motivations in mind. It's not that they're bad or nefarious, but they have a business model that they're building their AI system for. So their AI is going to always be in their favor on some level. What do I mean by that? I mean by, like, if any of you guys are using ChatGPT, hopefully you are. In today's video, I'm going to go through a couple of ChatGPT examples. But this is ChatGPT. ChatGPT is kind of one of the most popular large language model conversational AIs in the world today. And the thing is, a lot of the applications that each of us use, if you're using AI, are actually running through OpenAI servers. So, for instance, let's say you have a third party. I see a lot of people with chatbots. Well, what most people don't realize is that the chatbots they're downloading are not actually OpenAI's chatbot. It's a third party company that has essentially taken their technology and they have adapted it into their own technology and they're rebranding it. So they're getting charged a certain amount of money by OpenAI, and then they just turn around and upsell that to you as a user. Now, why would that be concerning? Well, that would be concern. Let's talk. We can actually have a conversation with this AI as an example. Why would it be? Uh, let's just say, give us a few examples of why closed um, closed source software can be um, negative. So with a conversational large language model like chat, you can have essentially a conversation with a database. So what these systems are doing is they're indexing databases, and then you can build other systems like that create what we call weights and biases, and then you can basically control how the AI interprets information. Okay, so the thing is, what you have to understand is that when you're doing this, when you're using these systems, all of your information that you're passing into them essentially goes across connections. So imagine you have a chat agent on your phone, like a third party chatbot that's using OpenAI as its backbone. Let's say that system, you're talking to that system, you're telling that system private personal information. You're talking to about business plans you have. You're talking about inventions. You're talking about systems designs. You're a human resource officer for some company, and you're using it to help you write letters. Now, it's great because it's helping you be more job. However, the downside is, as they say, if something's free, then you are the product. And what that means is that what's really happening is all that data that you're providing the system that you're using is passing through multiple places. It's being um, some of your streams. Okay, well, hopefully, but yeah. So the thing is that if you are using other people, if you build the system yourself, then you can't ever fully trust it. Okay, so that's important. That's an important lesson. So if you're just getting an app and you're using an app, I'm gonna simplify a little bit. If you're just getting an app or a device and you're just going to use it, you have to understand that means that because you don't know how the system operates, you have to assume that your data is on some level being manipulated, being intercepted, and more than likely being recorded. Okay, being viewed by third parties that you didn't intend to view the information. Perfect example: when you go to Facebook, who on was, but one of his classmates came to him and they were talking, and he says, "Well, hey, if you need any kind of joke around, I've got all these persons." Like, wait, it's like, dude, they just me. So, for example, when you're using Facebook, you have to understand in if you go to this recent court filing with Trump and all this kind of stuff on Twitter, the courts actually went subpoenaed the personal direct messages of Donald Trump from Twitter for these court cases. You have to, and people don't understand about things. People get upset about this, but you have to remember is this: if you're using a website or an app, you don't actually own that property. That's actually owned by whoever built that application or whoever paid to have the application built. So because that, you have the ultimate control of, yes, your Facebook page is locked with the password, but if you're a system administrator of Facebook, you could in theory gain access to that data if you really tried, right? This is actually possible. This is where open source versus closed source, this is happening. The thing is that this is important because in order to trust a computer system, an operating system, in order to trust it, you have to be the one that built it. If you build it, then you can trust it. Now, here's the thing. When you're looking at something like Ubuntu is an open source operating system. So like what I have here right now is I have a couple different things here. Some of these applications I'm running, for instance, Leon AI. Leon AI is an open source AI system. So Leon AI is, if I wanted to, since I have it installed on Ubuntu, if I had the knowledge and if I had the time, I could technically tear all the code down from Leon and from Ubuntu and rebuild it all from scratch. Now that's powerful because if you can do that, if you can build your own, it's not that I would, or it's not that I would have the time. I probably wouldn't have time in 10 lifetimes to rebuild Ubuntu and Leon from scratch. But the key is, if you did have the time, you could do that. Now, this is where Leon AI comes in. Leon AI is an example of an open source AI system that you can install on your local machine that has that can have control over actual computer systems, your local computer systems, your hardware, your software. So now imagine you have an AI like this, and you now get to decide what it thinks. You get to decide by creating your training data. That's how it thinks. What it knows is the large language model, and then how it reasons, which is your weights. Essentially your weights that you create. So you get to decide what your AI wants to do. Why is this important? This is important because you have a fundamental right to own your own self, your own thoughts, your own ideas. Of being as part of life is every person has value. Every person has their own best interest in mind. And so what we need to do, we need to have a way so people can actually understand and learn the code on a baseline without knowing the code. So this is where AI comes in. Leon AI is able to be installed on your system. It's open source, so now you can control everything. So now you have a system that you can run on your own machine with your own data sets, your own methods of thinking, and your own methods of reasoning built into your own personal AI system. One that the only limitation is the limitation of your mind. So such that anything you want it to do, it can do. Okay. So imagine, for instance, you need to send out, like a great example is like going through and closing tabs. Like I find that a lot of my day is spent closing tabs and doing things like that. I could essentially tell my AI to go through and clean up the tabs it thinks I'm not going to want to use. And because it's able to learn so rapidly and expand its knowledge, it's able to do that. Now, and it will be able to do it even without me asking. It will be able to send and receive emails, send and receive phone calls, text, those types of things, which is where I get into, let me see if I can pull up this. So this is, oops. Uh-oh. Hold on. Let's see here. So I'm hitting buttons. So this is where, so imagine an AI so powerful as this that you could effectively have it doing anything you want it to do for you. Okay. how would this work? Like, imagine, like, let's say you're hanging out with family and you just don't want to take any calls, or you're asleep. You could have your AI answering your phone and having conversations with people and booking appointments. You could have it calling people. You could have it do sending texts, emails, okay, stuff like this. So I actually did a video of this. I wrote a blog here called, if you go to my website, you go to articles, and then you can come down and go to AI Digital Assistant. If you come here, you can see here, this video actually has me talking with an AI and interviewing AI and discussing ways that you can implement its technology into your business. Okay. Now, this is where the discussion of open source, closed source technologies come into play, because the thing is you can imagine, as the great saying is, with great power comes great responsibility. So the thing is it's wonderful that we're adding all these technological advances and we're able to accomplish all these things. But the danger is that you are giving third parties more and more access to your most private information. When you connect to applications, when you are using powerful AI systems like this AI as an example, this is a third-party integration solution that I offer as part of a full stack AI technological stack renovation on IT systems. This AI is a third-party solution. However, this AI is using third-party closed source technologies to handle the data. So this is not a technology stack, part of a technology stack that I would recommend for a hospital. Okay, hospitals should be running a complete, built from the ground up, open source integrations. Think about this. Let's say you have let's say you have a major illness. Say you contracted an STD, for instance, and your doctor's office is using AI technology like Chat GPT or any other number of AI systems, and they're getting help filling out forms. They're getting help processing information. Hey, I got to write an email to Dr. So-and-so. I'm going to have Chat GPT write it. Once again, great use of technology, but bad application, because that data is now being sent across multiple unknown locations. And yes, it's encrypted in many cases. But remember, anytime you push data through somebody else's technology, you are technically giving up partial rights of that data, actually all rights of that data. That person could be capturing all of that data, and you would have no way to really know, and really no way to overcome this. So this is where, so this solution, while powerful, is something that have to use with caution. So this is where open source models come in. Okay, so open source now comes in the picture, and we can develop customized applications of AI technologies for specific use cases, and we can integrate third-party solutions in more of a comprehensive manner to help actually increase your resources in your technology stack to actually handle it. Here's what I mean. This is an example of an open source project I'm working on right now. This is AutoGPT, and AutoGPT is it utilizes large language models like ChatGPT and other large language models to accomplish tasks. So where ChatGPT is great at having conversations, and you can give it instruction, you can have it go out and do research and that kind of stuff. It's limited in its abilities to function and actually control technological resources. It can utilize what it's been given by its host, whoever's hosting it, whatever rights that are given, but it's limited. So, this is what I was talking about before. The information is being limited, it's being manipulated by definition. If it's not open source, you don't have any way to know otherwise. Now, it'd be that there could be some open source applications that are also doing well. But with OpenAI, with open source technology, you can actually audit the full code. So if you had enough knowledge, and there's a reason why I say that it's important, is because no person has enough time to learn all this technology from the ground up. No person. It would take a million lifetimes. It might take a million times to be able to get back to get to this type of technology if we had to start all over and do it by yourself. It would take you millions of lifetimes to get to this technology level. So the thing is here we have a problem. And the problem is this intersection. The intersection between humanity and technology, where we're in a very awkward situation because we're forced to have to rely on systems that we don't understand how they operate. Okay, that's a dangerous situation because you're giving away, you're putting a lot of trust into these technologies. You're sharing photos, you're sharing passwords, you're sharing secrets amongst your technological stacks, and you're trusting that these companies, organizations have your best interest when in fact they don't. It's not that they're nefarious. It's just that these individual organizations, everybody has their own motive. So you have to be able to control what your AI can do. You have to be able to control what your AI is doing. You have to understand. But the problem is that no matter how, and no problem, obviously, here's where the intersection is. The intersection is we only have about 70 years in an average lifespan. And you can't, and no person to be an not every person to be able to have time to be an expert at AI systems, to be able to audit their own codes, to audit their own file systems, to audit their own operating systems. But you know who can? An AI system. So an AI system can audit code. You could build an AI system to go and audit operating system and check for vulnerabilities, make recommendations on changes. And because you have an open source operating system like Ubuntu, guess what? You can do it because once again, you don't even have to learn how to code. All you have to do is know how to communicate. So you can talk to your AI and tell it to go fix the problem. Okay, that's how that works. It's an iterative process, but how do you get there? Well, you have to have an AI system that you can trust. If you have an AI system you can trust because you understand it good enough, you can use it to build another AI system that's more powerful that you can trust. And then you can use that AI system again to build a more powerful system. And you keep reiterating that process. You keep using previous versions of AIs to build new AIs to help you think through the processes. And so that way, when the applications are deployed, when your AI is running or whatever you're using, you know what you can trust. You understand how the AI works. You know what you can trust, what you can't trust. Like, you know that when you're using this particular AI, you can't do this, or you shouldn't do this, or you shouldn't say this. Okay. Know that, oh, with this AI, I can say a lot to it because it's completely closed source, it's private, but it's also got limited functionality. So you have to weigh those balances. But once again, how do you know these? You build AI systems that you can trust. Okay, so that's the process. So, but now and the reason why this now, instead of you to dive into the code and you having to change the operating system, guess what you can do? You can have your AI. Okay, so you can have your AI making on your screen. Well, I don't like this here. Can you move that box over? Can you make it bigger for me, please? Something like that. So you can control the screen with your, and you can tell the computer what to do. So you can come in here and say, you could be like, let's see here. You can say like, you say, yes, let's go forward with that plan. So then your agent can start doing tasks for you. It can it can work on trying to um, it can try to start troubleshooting problems for you. Now the thing is that as you build these systems, they become more and more uh, they grow over time, but it's basically you have to work hand in hand with them. So what I'm doing right now is I'm working on an AGI system, and this system you're looking at right now is just one part of that AI system that I'm working on engineering. So the project is called Project Eden, and the concept behind it is a a private, individually owned and operated AGI system that any person can operate on their own hardware, uh, and they're only limited by their imaginations. So imagine, for instance, you want to know how to make a marijuana shot drink in a country that marijuana, the drug, is illegal. Well, given regular large language models where your data is being manipulated and controlled, you're not allowed to have that type of information. And if you can try, if you actually go to OpenAI, and I'll give you an example real quick. Let me just show you this real quick. So if I go to let's see, if I go to OpenAI, chat. If I come here and I go, how do I? Oops, I'm talking on the wrong keyboard. Okay. I go to OpenAI and I say, how do I make a marijuana shot? I'm going to get an answer like this. It's going to say, okay, so this one's going to let me know. So sometimes depending on the situation, depending on where you're at, you can have local restrictions being applied to where they won't teach you how to do this. But depending on where you're at. So this is why you want an open source model. You want an open source model because you want to be able to control this information, because and you get to decide what information you want to see and what information you don't want to see. Why? And that's important because you have to be able to, as it goes on, hard to know what is real. In order to know what is real, you have to understand. You have to. The only way you can understand technology is if you can trust a system that's powerful enough technology. This is why open source is the only way forward, because we have to have full control over the systems we use in order to protect ourselves and to be safe. You have to have full control over your system, and that's why systems are so important. And like, this is a Auto GPT is a great example of uh, open source project. Here I can control every aspect of how the Auto GPT system operates. I can control what language model I can control what language model I'm using. I can control settings regarding like this, and define the user agent used by request library. I can define user agents. I can define every single aspect of this AI system. I can adjust temperature, meaning essentially how accurate, or how kind of like more fluid it would be. I can adjust everything. I can adjust which model I'm using. I can adjust which weights I'm using and how I'm using the weights. This is the kind of technology that's going to be critical for people to understand and to operate. But like I said, how do you solve this problem? Because most people are not going to have enough time to study and learn technology in this level. You solve it through what's called conversational coding. So if you get a chance, go to my website. I wrote an article called Conversational Coding. And this article, I explain to humans and to AI systems how coding could be used to bridge the gap, essentially. Now, what is conversational coding? Conversational coding is just having a conversation, but you write it in a structured format. We have paragraphs, we have sentences, right? Commas, things. Well, conversational coding isn't much different. The only difference is you're just being more specific and you're being more structured. You lay out just a little bit more. So you can just add, you don't have to do these things. But the thing is with AI systems are the information you give, the more, the better the better the output. It's a direct, actually, it's an actual direct mathematical correlation. The better the input, the better the output. So you can build these templates to help you uh, accomplish goals. So in this article, I actually break down an entire template that I've used. It's a white paper I wrote, I engineered, I should say. My entire website was built hand in hand with very advanced AI systems. So when you're looking at the website, understand that everything you're seeing is engineered. Every single thing, the letters, the words, the the imagery, some aspect of everything on here is AI generated. So this article breaks down how you can use template to produce a very specific output, the desired output in an article format. So you can use these templates then to engineer bigger systems. Okay, so now you can use something like Leon AI to be a digital brain, where you don't have to know how to code at all. You just have to know how to communicate with Leon AI or communicate with your AI system. And your AI system can then code. But once again, the better the input, the better the output. So that's where conversational, it's like a middle ground between language and code. And with conversational code, there is no like exact way to do things, right? There are some better and worse methods, but conversational coding is prompt engineering. You're engineering your prompts, you're structuring your inputs to increase increase the efficiency of your outputs, or the proficiency, okay, or quality of the outputs. So I was going to show. So you can structure, yeah, this. So you can structure. So this is Leon is effectively the brain of the brain. So it can basically listen to you, and it's open source. You can have full control over the core code. It installs an Ubuntu, which is open source as well. You have full control over the entire system, and you can program Leon AI to do anything. So that's why I'm using Leon AI for the engineering of Project Eden. So let's see. So this is what Project Eden's structure looks like. So we use Leon. So this is the actual application that EdenAGI, which is being built for Ubuntu. The way it works is we have our source folder here, and our source folder has Leon installed that directory. Now Leon has a folder in its directory called AI Tools, and in AI Tools, that's where we install an instance of AutoGPT, also open source. Now AutoGPT does use by default closed source LLMs, and there's but you can adjust those as well. Okay, so once again, when we're building our AI systems, you're never reinventing the wheel with AI. You're always reiterating other work that's already been done. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can use third-party applications, but you just have to understand how to use them, and you have to understand their limitations. With all models, you have limitations. So the goal here is to build a system that's simple enough that anybody can learn it using conversational code. So it has to follow a certain logical progression too. So this is why I have AutoGPT here. Then what I do is nest a second AutoGPT here. Now, why do we do that? Well, one of AutoGPT's limitations is limitations by the different models it's working with. It can only process so much information, and it will. I found that AutoGPT crash, and that's one of the notorious about that. They get overloaded, they get distracted with irrelevant information because they start going down rabbit holes, and the logic disperses. With any AI system you use, the logic will disperse over time. So the logic begins to dissipate as you get further away from details. If you've ever had a conversation with AI, you've noticed that it's really good at like knowing what's going on in the conversation right now. But if you go back like some random time, it won't remember some important detail of a conversation. That's that logic dispersion that happens. So AutoGPT suffer from this because the further they get from their task, the more dispersed their logic becomes, and they become collapsing. They stop functioning. So what we want to do is we want to keep AutoGPT focused on tasks at hand. So now the thing is if you're really good at controlling AutoGPT, you can get it to go for a long time and accomplish a lot of really cool stuff. But it takes a lot of work. I've sat around and worked with my AutoGPT for like weeks just to get basic functionality to send an email. And that's working with an AI to engineer the prompts to create that action. So, but what if we could, because this is the structure that this is Project Eden Online. You check it out. I'm going to show you. This is the engineering Eden structure. I think this is the one. Here I lay out a design. This is essentially how data flows. I don't remember what that. Let's see here. Eden engineering, plant system design, conceptual outline. It's actually, I got more on here than I remember where it's all at. This is the engineering process. Here we go. So this is the engineering process that I developed for Project Eden. This goes through all the actual data flows and how everything flows through Eden's processing systems. Basically, I have ways you can basically have essentially create like a digital chat room using a template. That template gets fed to a system engineer GPT, and then that gets passed through to Eden, and then Eden adds adds in this information using a Bayesian theorem, which is all this is based on. But it combines it with the combined output, and then it sends it off to the appropriate agents. Now, the reason why this is important because, like I said, all these agents can work really well if they're supervised. But the key is to be supervised by a very intelligent agent. Why we use ChatGPT to engineer these processes. I've done some other videos on my engineering processes and how they operate, but we basically need to assign an expert to monitor a GPT unit. Well, that's why that structure is the way it is. What we're doing here is we're actually nesting. This is the first instance of AutoGPT. We're going to nest the second instance of AutoGPT here. Now, what this does is, what we do here is instead of your primary AutoGPT trying to solve all the problems, what you want to do instead is you want to be able to control. All you want to do is tell it, I want you just to control this agent. Now, what that does is it takes the processing power off of the primary GPT, it frees it up just for logic, or very simple logic. Yes, no, maybe. Here's an idea. So you can tell, for instance, this GPT, hey, uh, so you speak to Leon, and you tell Leon, hey, I want to get, um, you say to Leon, I want a cup of coffee in my hand by 5 o'clock today. Okay, and Leon says, okay. Do you want? Leon's going to respond back to you with output, possibly, but before that, he might say something like, "Oh, you want that? What?" He might already know. Leon might already know your flavor that you want. Okay, but technically, you're only speaking to EdenAGI. EdenAGI uses Leon as its primary backbone for its local computational um, efficiencies. So you speak to Eden, or whatever you call your AI, but Eden is the core code. But you speak to your agent, and your agent passes a message on Leon. Your agent says, queries Leon, hey, because actually Leon and your agent are the same thing. So Leon is receiving the input through the face of your agent. So you might be speaking to an avatar, you might be talking on your phone, texting, whatever your agent is that you have installed in your system. You can call it whatever you want to call it, but that agent is actually comprised of all these different parts. Leon is essentially um, the neurological system of your AGI system. So Leon takes the query or the input, and Leon passes it through to Auto GPT. If there are tasks that need to be done, assigned, okay, there's things that work that need to be done. Obviously, if Leon can answer the question, what's 2 plus 2, Leon doesn't have to pass the information down to anyone else. There's no research that has to be done. Leon will probably have that information that can pass up to your AI. Now, the thing is that but some tasks will require some extra work that needs to be done. So maybe you tell the AI, I want to have a coffee in my hand. Well, Leon's going to say, okay. Leon's going to be able to handle some of those processes. Maybe maybe it's such a simple task Leon can do it, but there might be some things that have to be done, that work needs to be done, and Leon passes that through to Auto GPT. Auto GPT, instead of processing the information, this first Auto GPT right here, this is we're calling it the first tier is an AI dispatcher. Okay, task delegation without direct processing components. Input parser breaks down user requests into actionable tasks. Worker allocator, this is the most appropriate second tier Auto GPT instance to handle a specific task. Communication for transmitting tasks and receiving results from the AI workers. So all it does is dispatch, essentially, and task delegation. And what it does is it passes off tasks to go to your second tier Auto GPT. And its role, that's what's right here. Second tier. So now this role is essentially the AI workers, or second tier Auto GPTs. Role: actual task processing. Components: task processor processes the assigned task. Result compiler organizes process data for return to the AI dispatcher. Plugins interface allows integrations of plugins to extend functionality. So this second Auto GPT, it's basically handling the workload. It's actually doing the task. Now, the thing is that by using this strategy, this is extremely powerful, because now your primary Auto GPT doesn't need to really do a lot. It doesn't need to learn anything new, really. It needs to, its sole purpose is to gain control of the second Auto GPT's console and just simply interact with the text on the screen. So it's going to read it. It's going to choose, because Auto GPTs, you can choose. The way Auto GPT works is, let me just give you an example. So the way an Auto GPT works is, example, Auto GPTs are comprised of essentially 4 different personalities. And these personalities they're essentially each their own AI system with their own tasks. Remember how I said that when you pass when you pass data through different systems, in each system you can add new information. So basically, built into this code is a code that tells each of these particular AI, hey, your role is this role. The next AI says your role is reasoning. The next role is your role is thoughts. And next one is your role is criticism. And then there's another one, your role is speak. So think of them as spirits. Like your Auto GPT has 5 spirits, but they're all individual AI systems. They've just been programmed. When I say programmed, instructed. Remember how it says you pass information through systems, you can add information. Information has been added to the data outputs of those systems to cause it to be a certain type of agent. So what we have here is system. Command Google returned error, HTTP error 400 when requesting. And then it's just giving us a system readout. Then this next one is primary controller thoughts. This is its thoughts. I need to find the console for the secondary Auto GPT agent. The next spirit is reasoning. So reasoning says, I haven't made any progress yet, and finding the console was the first step to establish communication in the secondary Auto GPT agent. So then we have the next spirit come in. This spirit's called plan. And plan says, find the console, establish communication, delegate tasks, analyze outputs, handle errors. And then you have another spirit called criticism. Criticism says, I should have started searching for the console earlier. And then you have speak. Speak says, I am searching for the console to establish communication with the secondary. So you see how these agents are all working together. This agent is doing a lot of processing right now. Now, because it's doing so much processing over time, if it's not guided very well, it will probably crash. Because what I should do right now is I should go to my chat agent through ChatGPT. I should give it all this information. I did a whole video on how I do advanced prompt engineering templates and how I can use this. I should take this information, move it to a prompt engineering template, and then I should engineer a response to the agent. However, that's very time consuming. It takes about 30 minutes per prompt to do an engineered prompt with that method. Now it's very powerful because you focus the result, the outputs, you get focused, high quality outputs from the system. So this worked for 30 minutes, but imagine how slow that process is. So that's why, but like I mentioned, who's good at that? Auto GPTs are good at it. So now what we do is we say, okay, so the way these works are is after they give you all their information, it says next action, command. Now it's going to tell you what action it thinks it needs to make is. And then here's where your response is. It says enter Y to authorize the command. So it's simple. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to say, do I think this is a good plan? If I do, I'll press Y. If I press -N, I can run it in continuous commands. I'm sorry. So maybe now something that you can do though is, let's say you think its logic is really good. You can actually give it more turns. So instead of 1 extra turn, you can authorize 2, or you could authorize 4 turns, or you can run forever without any interruption. This is where you get into the story of the paperclip maximizer, the story of a paperclip company that produces that decides to integrate AI into systems. And this is just a hypothetical story, but it's an AI, a paperclip company, for sure, but a paperclip company integrates AI, and that AI basically becomes so good at producing paper clips for the company and destroying humanity. But that's what you could do with that. If you do negative in, you could just tell it to run forever. But it will probably crash, like I said, within 5 or 6 rounds with that. I've actually had consistent engineering round go for the most of probably 40 rounds before my AI crashed. And that was because I got lazy. I wasn't properly using prompt engineering templates when I was engineering my responses. But that was that was if I ever went for that. So now then I could put in, if I want to exit the program. Say I need to make a modification to the console, or if I need to use the console for something else. Then I could press in to exit the program, and then I could always get back into the program. Um, and I'll show you a little bit about that in a moment. How you can get back in the program, but you just basically boot back in the program, and then you can pick up from where you left off if you use what I call system restore points. And I wrote an article on system restore points as well. I think it's yeah. So system restore logs, mm, articles, educational path. I wrote a. Oh, I'm just trying to remember where I put the art, where I saved it to. But one of these has yeah. I'll have to find it, put a link to it. Actually, I need to make sure it's either this site or my personal portfolio site. Um, yeah. So, but basically, yeah. So it would take you forever to do that. So what I want to do is, oh, so yeah. I'm trying to remember where I put the article. Anyways, I'm going to find it. But basically, you can create system restore points to come back into the application and kind of get back to where you started off at. But that's a whole nother video for another topic, which I did do. It's on the YouTubes. So now, basically, if you think so, everything I just went over, that's a process you have to do over and over again. Like I said, it's better if you can do it with the help of AI. So that's why we're doing this method. So now what we have, if we go back to this diagram, zoom in just a little bit so you can see it. Um, so now what we do, we use this is our engineer process. Okay. So Leon to guide this process. So Leon AI, what happens is we start off with human thoughts, engineer GPT, compress human thoughts. So we're using a system called Engineer GPT, only engineering of prompts, generating prompts and prompt templates. So Engineer GPT will get information and be programmed to provide an engineered prompt to be placed in what I call the chat room. The chat room is that I actually did a whole video on this prompt template that I use. Um, this template is like a chat room. Is how it's set up. So it can take multiple inputs, and then you can provide additional insight and guidance to create a very specified type of output. That output is generated back to systems engineer. Systems engineer takes that information that's been compressed. It takes that all. It takes. Let's say. The reason this is important is because you're going to have multiple AIs doing multiple tasks. You might have one AI doing working on a newsletter. You might have another AI working on a new song. You might have another AI working I'm giving you big high order tasks. You might have one AI writing an email, and you have outputs. Those I get through a prompt template that you generate, and those prompt templates here to the administrator. Now, I'm sorry, they get, so you have the administrator passes it through the template, and then it gets these these added here on, and then it can, from here you can have action. Maybe this agent just goes ahead and sends an email, or the agent does a search, or whatever that agent's going to do, ahead and does it. Or agent may want to push it through. It's going to copy console output, and it's going to start with thoughts and end after input. So when we come back over here, I did a whole video breakdown on how this works, but it starts with thoughts and ends after output. So it's going to copy this section from the console, and then it takes that and pushes it into the chat room. So what we're doing is we're compressing data. We're compressing conversations. Each agent is taking a chunk of information, sizing that information, getting the best parts that apply to very specified purposes, and then it feeds it to the next agent. Again, compresses more and more information down to where something like exists. Now, we also do the same with a human chat room. We have a human. So imagine, let's say you have a chat bot. You could have a chat room, an AI chat room, essentially, or it could be multiple people sitting in a room having a conversation. However it happens, there comes multiple humans and sources. It could be an external website. Comes into Engineer GPT. Engineer GPT thoughts to compress the data model. It is pushed into the chat room. The chat room then essentially uses this prompt template to compress the data further. Now, what we're doing here is the same exact thing that we did with MP3s and MP. When you are listening to MP3 or watching MP4 or video or listening to music, you're actually, that data is being compressed in a way that preserves a lot of space and allow they're not actually sending you all the frames. They're the frames that they have, they're preserving them. The repeating frames, let's say you have a black screen for the entire movie. Well, it doesn't have to resend all that. I can use the same information for every scene. So the same thing we're doing here. We're having our agents compress information based upon the weights on the data that we tell them to compress the data with. They compress it using that information. It values some information over others. Maybe one thing is important to you and it's not important to another person. Not everybody's the same. Some people value certain things, some people don't. So what's important to me might not be important to you. This is why it's important. So you get to decide, hey, agent, here's how I want you to interpret this information. I want you to pick out these parts because these parts, your agent pulls out those pieces, synthesizes the information, compresses it, passes it into the chat room. From the chat room, it gets compressed down, sent this back to gets to this system engineer. This system engineer compresses that information using the template and passes it to EdenAGI's. Essentially, this is EdenAGI's. I don't know how you would word this, but it's like I guess soul essentially is what this is. So EdenAGI accepts all content, create a prompt for the team. This is, I'm actually changing this because this is actually essentially, yeah, this gets back to EdenAGI, correct actually. EdenAGI then makes a decision, and that decision is where it goes from here, because it can take that information, create output back in here, or it can create output, keep going back, and it can place that information, it will place this information here back in the chat room to be assimilated into the next round. There's a part of the template that basically says runs the system what the previous input was, and that gets taken into account on that. I'm not going to go too much into that on today's video. But the reason why I bring all this up as well is because this is a great example. You can see all these processes going on. Now, the thing is that you could see how this very quickly gets very personal very quickly, or you could see how data is being in the moment here. So we want to understand how our systems operate, what their limitations are, what they're good, and we have to be able to implement that process. That is what this project is about. So I know it's a lot. Just want to walk you guys through the structural components of how we're using this AutoGPT stacking to accomplish the goal here. Because and I guess the point I was bringing when I showed you that diagram was, what we're effectively doing here is we are using AutoGPT at its strength. Instead of it doing, we're splitting it in half. Okay, so this one only has to worry about one thing. Yes, no, or Y, N, or S, or something else. Maybe it has some input at one side. Sometimes your AutoGPT, because it's not as, think of your AutoGPT as almost as like kids with ADHD. They're very fast. They're very fast at processing, but also very, in some ways, undisciplined, because they're so busy. Like, they're doing a bunch of stuff, and I believe I got ADHD myself, so I know the feeling. I'm always doing a bunch of different things, and as the old saying goes, he who chases two rabbits catches none. So it's a similar process, So what we're doing is we're taking the strength of AutoGPT and we're benefiting the strength in both two different ways. We're utilizing it here. We're utilizing it for a very specified purpose, very disciplined purpose of sitting there all day, pressing yes, no, self-reflection, and or adding a little bit of information. It's a tedious task. No human wants to sit around and do that. Trust me, I've tried for like 7 to 8 hours a day, a lot, and you eventually let things slip, or you press the button the wrong way or something like that, and then your whole program, you're having to go back and reset. That happens with AutoGPTs. So we're using AutoGPT's ability to not really care about that. AutoGPT doesn't care. AutoGPT will just sit there all day and doing that task. But we're also utilizing its power, its ability to function on a very high level, as far as efficiency. I mean, not efficiency, but its ability to accomplish a lot of things and multitask and to control systems. So we just have to have a very good pilot, and that's what AutoGPT is. The first instance is just a really good pilot. There are other tools you're going to be integrating as well. I go over more of that in detail on projecteden.online, as you can see here. And I go through all the different major components we're using. We're going to be using AutoGPT as part for the technology stack, using AutoGPT, Visual Studio for code editor, Engineer GPT for building applications from scratch. Well, AutoGPT will be Leon and AutoGPT will both have full access to each AutoGPT. I'm sorry, the second instance of AutoGPTs here. They will have access to Engineer GPT and Private GPT, as well as Leon, and there obviously will be standalone as well. We are entering as much open source. Our project is being engineered from the ground up to be open source. Doesn't mean everything will be open source. It just means that if you want it to be all open source, you can build, like I mentioned before, When you have open source, you can tear it down from the ground and rebuild it from the ground up. Um, Not that you have to, but that is the option. And then because we're building this open source, we'll actually launch directly into Ubuntu. You'll be able to install it using GitHub repository, which is it's a relatively simple process. But if you don't have an AI that can help you, once again, you can utilize AIs to increase your knowledge base and help you learn. If you don't have an AI that can teach you how to access a GitHub repository, you can just start playing around with ChatGPT. Make sure you go to chat.openai.com. This is the direct connection to OpenAI's chat system. But you can learn how to use a GitHub repository to download code, and you can actually in the development process of Eden's code and learn more, and just install it on your own Ubuntu enabled device. And you'll also be able to eventually install this as well on Androids and iPhones. And what it will do for you is it will be able to control your whole phone if you want it to. So you'll be able to have it make and receive calls from your phone. You'll be able to speak to it through text, voice to text. My Leon right now is I gotta get Leon back up and running. Let me see if I can maybe I can get Leon running and I can show you that process just real quick. So I had to shut Leon down for a minute. Let's see here. All right, I'm gonna mute the screen for a second, and then I'm gonna go here to chat. All right, we need to go to. Yeah, I don't think I can get Leon up and running yet. Right now on this video. Yeah, we'll have to save it for another video. I did another video on Leon AI, so you can go check that out. But yeah, so that was a lot of discussion on OpenAI, open technology versus closed technology. But the key is, remember, if you yourself cannot audit the entire code of an application, then it's closed source. And because of that, you have to, it's not that you can never trust a closed source application. Most of the applications we use are closed source. It's not that closed source is necessarily bad, but you have that when you use a technology, you truly do not know what is happening with the data, whether the data is coming from you or going to you. And it is by definition being manipulated, being intercepted, and it's being recorded. So what we're going to do is help people. I just realized it says Paul on the screen. All right, I got to get rid of that. Hold on, let's see. Gosh. I don't know what just happened. I don't know how that got on there. Okay. Paul was using my. Okay, whatever. But yeah, so this is basically the infrastructure kind of built out. Make sure you check out the website. Got a bunch of new information on the website. Like I said, lots of really interesting topics. Specifically, I've got an article on conversational coding. You can learn about that there. I did an article on AI safe jobs. If you're interested in learning more about some ideas for jobs that will be safe from AI takeover, at least for a little while. Also wrote an open letter for OpenAI where I describe method for resolving some issues that they've been having with contextual limitations on all GPT systems. I wrote an article on protecting your brand from email spoofing. Make sure to check that out. this article goes into in depths about email spoofing. Helps you understand how, not super in depth, but it helps you understand what it is, how people can steal your email address, and how in a way that you can protect yourself from doing that. If you need help, I can help. I can definitely help you with that. Reach out um, through my company, Anytime Computer Service. We can learn more about that by just going to our website, anytimecomputerservice.com. So our certified ethical employer, just big shout out to the certified ethical employer community. If you're wanting to know about that, I'll show you. I'll walk you. I'll show you that sometime too. You can find out more about the ethical employer certification. See if it shows up on Google. Nope. I was just seeing if it will show up there, but yeah. So make sure to check that out. Certified ethical employers. That's been a passion project of mine for a while now. This is the website, so make sure check it out. Really try to only do business with certified ethical employers. That's a big shout out to that. But I also have an article on prompt engineering training here. I offer prompt engineering services, so I can do prompt engineering training through a one-on-one group prompt engineering training as well. Do seminars on prompt engineering, help you and your team develop customized prompt templates to help you increase efficiency, but also do so in responsible methods that protect your data and protect that are safe. Like I mentioned before, you have to be very careful what information you give to what AI system, because you need to understand where that data is going, how it's being collected, how it's being manipulated, intercepted, and controlled. So check out this article on engineering training. Also, have been developing the ability. We're on developing custom avatars where you can do build AI personas as well. We talk about building custom avatars, what the process is for that. Let's say this could be very viable. You could build an avatar of yourself, so that way over time you can give information about yourself and knowledge. And so maybe it's something you want to pass to your kids one day. So it'd be an AI version of you with your thoughts, that kind of stuff. And who knows, maybe one day we'll be able to connect our brains to these AIs, and it will be essentially a part of your consciousness. That's a whole nother topic for another day. Here I talk about some Python program I built on showing how you can manipulate strings and do some video newsletter stuff where you can integrate video into your newsletters. Make sure to check it out. This is an example of how you can use how you can take an article like this. This is an article I got sent in an email from a really cool email newsletter that I get that keeps me up to date on stuff that you can see. It's a regular newsletter. That's cool. But I thought to myself, this is an example of how you can use it. You can use it by taking all that data, then you can make yourself an AI avatar that actually shares that summary. So now you're not just sending emails with text. You can actually have a video embedded in your email that actually goes over it. You can imagine using this for, like, let's say a proposal for a big project. You can send your proposal, put your proposal with an AI that actually explains the proposal to the client. So I'm actually working on a proposal right now for a project I'm looking at taking on, and I'm going to put together a proposal. Have my AI engineer a proposal. Then we'll engineer a video to go along with the proposal as well, with an AI who's sharing information from the article and from the blog. See, so you can embed. See, we embedded these images as the AR in the project. This is something you can do for relatively little to no cost compared to methods. There's quite a few more things, and I want to dive into much more on some of these technologies, but I want to share it with you. There's some really good videos in here about um, ways that you can use technology to increase your effectiveness. Make sure you check out the article I wrote on the digital AI digital assistant that kind of got us down this rabbit trail that we've been on for this last hour and a half. And you can learn more about this. Make sure to take a look at this video. This is where I'm actually interviewing an AI that I'm working with that can do um, voice calls, send, receive text messages, emails, pretty much anything you can do on the phone. This AI can do. So check that out. Looking forward to hearing from all of you. Please reach out if you'd like to get connected. Please, you can use this button is at the bottom of every page. Schedule a complimentary 15-minute AI consultation. Reach out to me. We can take a look at your project, look at your needs, and we can kind of like come up with a solution that would work for you. So that's it. Until next time, you guys take care out there, okay? And happy programming.